It was 1:14 in the morning when the motion sensor for row C went off for the fourth time. The same unit. Unit 47. I checked the security system. No one had entered row C since 6 p.m. I checked the camera. Nothing. The hallway was empty. I grabbed my flashlight and walked down there. Unit 47 was supposed to be locked. And it was. The padlock was still hanging through the hasp. Still closed. Still exactly where I'd left it during my last round. But the door was open. About 8 inches. I stood there staring at it, trying to convince myself I was looking at it wrong. Then something inside the unit made a quiet scraping sound. Like someone had just moved a box across the concrete floor. There was one problem. A locked padlock should have kept that door closed. I checked it twice. The hasp was still secured. The lock hadn't been cut. There was no broken metal. No damage. Nothing that explained how the door could be standing open while the lock was still locked. And I wasn't alone at that facility that night. Not technically. There were security cameras covering every row. Electronic access logs recorded every entry. And according to both of them, nobody had been anywhere near Unit 47. I'd worked overnight security there for 14 months. 600 storage units. 4 main rows. Most nights were painfully boring. And honestly, that's what you want from a night security job. Nothing happens. You make your rounds. You check the gates. You watch the cameras. You go home. But Unit 47 was different. I just didn't know how different yet. The first alert came at 11:52 p.m. Unit 47. I checked the camera feed. The row was empty. I logged it as a sensor malfunction. That wasn't unusual. The system occasionally produced false alarms. Then, at 12:31, it happened again. Unit 47. I checked the camera. Nothing. No person. No animal. No movement. Just a dark hallway lined with metal doors. I logged it again. Then at 1:03 a.m., the sensor triggered for the third time. Same unit. Same camera. Same empty hallway. That's when I stopped thinking it was a coincidence. The fourth alarm came at 1:14. That's when I decided to walk down there. I remember thinking that I'd probably find something stupid. A loose piece of plastic. A box leaning against the sensor. Maybe a malfunction. Anything would have been better than what I actually found. Because when I reached Unit 47, the door was open. I stood there with my flashlight pointed through the gap. 8 inches. That's all. Not enough to see the entire unit. But enough to see darkness. I could smell dust. Old cardboard. That stale smell storage units get when they've been closed for years. I was about to radio my supervisor when I heard it. Scrape. Something moved inside. Then silence. I waited. Nothing. I leaned closer. And that's when I heard another sound. A soft metallic clink. Like someone had picked something up. and set it down. I stepped backward. Every sensible part of me said, walk away. Call the supervisor. Wait for backup. Do not open a storage unit in the middle of the night when you don't know what's inside. But then I noticed something. The padlock. It was still locked. I pulled my radio from my belt. Unit 47 is showing an access issue, I said. My supervisor answered. Copy. I didn't tell him what I'd seen yet. I wanted to make sure I wasn't imagining it. I put one hand on the door and slowly pulled it open. My flashlight went in first. The beam moved across stacked boxes. An old dresser. A mattress leaning against the back wall. Furniture covered in faded sheets. Everything looked exactly like a storage unit that hadn't been touched in years. Dust covered almost everything. Then I saw something that didn't belong. Right inside the doorway was a clean patch of concrete. No dust. No dirt. Nothing. It looked like something had been sitting there recently. I moved the flashlight toward the back. Nothing. Then I noticed the dresser. One drawer was open. Just a few inches. I knew it hadn't been opened during my previous inspection. I didn't touch it. I backed out of the unit. Then I tried to close the door. It wouldn't sit correctly. The hasp wouldn't line up. The padlock was still locked, but somehow the door wouldn't close flush. I stepped away and radioed my supervisor. This time, I told him everything. There was a long silence. Then he asked me something that made the hair on my arm stand up. Is it Unit 47? I hadn't told him the number. I hadn't even said which row I was in. I asked him how he knew. He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Stay where you are." I asked why. He said, "Because you're not the first guard to find that door open." That was the moment I realized there was something about Unit 47 nobody had told me. My supervisor eventually told me there had been reports about that unit for years. 3 previous overnight guards had reported almost the exact same thing. The sensor would trigger. The cameras would show nothing. They'd walk down to row C. And Unit 47 would be standing open. Even though the padlock was still locked. But there was another detail. Every guard reported hearing something inside. Not screaming. Not footsteps running toward them. Just ordinary sounds. A box being moved. A drawer opening. Something being placed on the floor. Small, domestic sounds. Like someone was quietly going through their belongings. I asked my supervisor why the facility hadn't replaced the lock or emptied the unit. He said management had tried to deal with it before. But there was something unusual about the tenant. The woman who rented Unit 47 had stopped visiting years ago. According to the records, she'd rented the unit almost 3 years before I started working there. Then she died. Her family never came to clear the unit. The facility couldn't simply throw everything away because the rental agreement and payment records were still active. So the unit remained. Year after year. Untouched. At least. That's what everyone believed. I asked my supervisor one question. What happened when someone opened it? He went quiet. Then he said, someone did. A previous guard had gotten tired of the situation. Management approved opening the unit during the daytime. They cut the lock, opened the door, and according to the paperwork, Unit 47 was supposed to be completely full. Furniture, boxes, the dresser, everything. But when they opened the door, it was empty. Completely empty. No furniture. No boxes. No mattress. Nothing. Just bare concrete walls. The guard thought there had been some kind of administrative mistake. Maybe the original tenant had cleared it out years earlier. Maybe the inventory records were wrong. So management checked everything. The original move-in photograph still showed the unit filled with furniture. Payment records were still there. The inventory list matched the photographs. There was no explanation. They closed the unit. The next morning, they planned to investigate further. But the following night, another guard went to row C. And Unit 47 was full again. The same furniture. The same boxes. The same dresser. Even the same faded labels on the boxes. According to the report, there was dust everywhere. The exact same dust that had covered the unit before it was emptied. As if nobody had touched anything. As if the unit had never been empty at all. The guard who discovered it quit less than a week later. He didn't give management much of an explanation. He only said, I don't want to work near row C anymore. My supervisor told me not to touch Unit 47. Don't cut the lock. Don't enter it again. Don't try to figure out how the door was opening. Just reset the sensor and leave it alone. I asked him why. He said, because every guard who tries to solve it eventually stops working here. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because I didn't know what else to do. I reset the alarm. I finished my shift. And I didn't go back to row C. The next evening, I arrived early. I wanted to see Unit 47 in daylight. The padlock was still there. The door was closed. The hasp was perfectly aligned. Everything looked normal. I checked the camera footage from the previous night. Nothing. No person. No shadow. No animal. No movement. Nothing. Then I checked the access log. Nothing. Nobody had entered row C after 6 p.m. Nobody had opened Unit 47. At least. According to the system, for the next few weeks, nothing happened. Then one night, at 1:14 a.m., the sensor triggered again. Unit 47. I looked at the camera. The hallway was empty. I didn't go down there. The sensor triggered again. I still didn't move. Then something appeared on the camera. Not in front of Unit 47. Inside the reflection of the metal door across from it. A shadow. It moved slowly across the hallway. Then disappeared. I rewound the footage. Nothing. I watched it again. Nothing. I watched it a third time. Still nothing. Then I noticed the timestamp. The camera had recorded the shadow at 1:14 a.m. But the hallway camera showed no movement. And the motion sensor for Unit 47 had triggered at exactly the same second. I checked the other cameras. Nothing. I checked the access log. Nothing. Then I noticed something I had never seen before. The system wasn't recording an entry. It was recording an exit. Someone, or something, had supposedly left Unit 47. But there was no record of anyone ever entering it. I haven't opened that door since. I don't even walk down row C alone anymore. When the sensor triggers, I reset it from the security panel. Then I wait. Eventually, the alarm stops. The hallway goes quiet. And Unit 47 goes back to looking exactly like every other storage unit in the building. Locked. Silent. Empty looking. Except every once in a while. At exactly 1:14 in the morning, I hear something through the security office speakers. A soft metallic sound. Then another. Like someone moving boxes around on a concrete floor. And the strangest part, the microphone in row C was never supposed to pick up sound from inside a storage unit. Unit 47 is still rented. The account is still active. The lock is still on the door. And nobody on the current staff has ever met the woman whose name is on that contract. But the sensor still goes off. Sometimes once. Sometimes 4 times. And sometimes I hear the door open before the alarm even reaches the security panel. I don't check it anymore. Some things are easier to live with when you stop trying to find out what's behind the door. Because if Unit 47 really is empty, then whatever keeps opening it isn't coming from inside. Subscribe if you're brave enough to work the next shift.